is Arthur, and I was a farmer. I am not sure whether I should say was or still am. Things are complicated these days. What matters is that what happened will change the way you think forever about isolation, about the ground you walk on, and about what might be buried beneath your feet at this very moment. I am a 45-year-old man. I inherited this farm from my father, who inherited it from my grandfather. 30 acres of farmland with a horse barn, a smaller sheep shed, an old water well, and a small house built of black stone. The farm lies about an hour's drive from the city, and my nearest neighbor is roughly 2 kilometers away. I chose this life. I loved it. I loved the silence of the night, the sound of wind in the willow branches, the feeling that I was the only man in this vast world. But that was before that night. It was cold, the 15th of November. I remember the date well because I had marked it in red on the kitchen calendar. Delivery day for the cotton harvest to the wholesaler. I was in good spirits that evening. I cooked myself a simple dinner, drank 2 glasses of homemade apple wine, and lay on the couch reading an old book about livestock breeding. Around midnight, the wind began to rise. It howled so violently that I heard the barn door screaming against its hinges. I hesitated, then put on my heavy coat, grabbed the old kerosene lantern, and stepped outside. The cold bit in my face like tiny knives. The darkness was unnaturally thick, as if someone had draped a black cloth over the sky. Even the moon was hidden behind heavy, stone-like clouds. I walked toward the barn, trying not to slip on the frozen mud, the lantern casting a weak yellow circle of light barely 2 steps ahead. When I opened the barn door, I felt something was wrong immediately. The horses were huddled in the far corner, their eyes wide and white in the dark, trembling. They were not calm as usual. I tried to approach them, but they shrank back further, as if I were not myself, as if they were afraid of me too. I told myself a wolf or fox must have slipped onto the farm. I returned to the house and brought my old shotgun, a hunting rifle that had belonged to my father before it became mine. I circled the barn, inspecting every corner, every burrow. Nothing. I went back inside to check on the horses again. That was when I heard it. Strange sound. Digging. Coming from beneath the ground, almost directly under my feet. The sound of a pickaxe or shovel breaking through soil, slow and deliberate. 1 strike, then another, then another. I froze. I raised the lantern high and looked around. No one. The barn door was closed, the windows shut. Only the wind and the groaning wood. Then the sound came again, closer this time. I felt something rare, something I had not felt since I was a small child. True fear. Not fear of a storm or a predator, but that ancient primal fear that seeps into the marrow and freezes the blood. I suddenly remembered a story my grandfather used to tell. He said this land had once been a cemetery before it became a farm. A cemetery for outcasts, for the unknown, for those no one wanted. He said that when they moved the graves, they forgot one, left him alone beneath the earth. I laughed at myself then. Old wives' tales. But the digging continued. I decided to follow the sound. I walked outside, behind the barn, toward the empty field I had not planted in 2 years. The land there was barren, cracked, lifeless. I reached the middle of the field and stopped. The sound was directly beneath my feet, clear as a church bell in a quiet night. I pressed my ear to the cold ground. I heard it perfectly. Digging, blow after blow. Suddenly it stopped. For a moment, I thought I had imagined it all. Then I heard another sound. The sound of a fingernail scratching wood from the inside. I jumped back, nearly dropping the lantern. I looked at the ground. Just dry, cracked earth. But the scratching continued, growing louder, faster. Then it turned into pounding, violent pounding, as if something inside a coffin was trying to break through the lid. I ran. I had not run like that since I was a boy. I ran with everything I had toward the house, the lantern dancing wildly in my hand, nearly going out. I did not look back. I did not dare. I reached the door, stumbled, nearly fell, rushed inside, bolted it with 2 heavy latches, pushed the table against it, then the cabinet. I sat in the corner, gasping, gripping the shotgun, my fingers trembling like autumn leaves. Minutes passed. 20 minutes. An hour. Nothing. Only the wind. I began to calm myself, telling myself it was all in my head. Cold, fatigue, loneliness, overthinking. I drank a large glass of corn whiskey to steady my nerves and tried to sleep, though I kept my clothes on and left the shotgunner beside the bed. I woke at 3 in the morning. I don't know what woke me, but I was instantly alert. I sat up in bed. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps on the gravel outside my bedroom window. Slow, deliberate, weighty. I pressed myself against the wall, lifted the curtain with a fingertip, and looked. I saw nothing. Only darkness. But the footsteps were there, circling the house once, then stopping at the front door. I heard the doorknob turn slowly, testing it. I held my breath. It tried again, harder this time, until the wood groaned. Then silence. I returned to the window. The moon had briefly emerged from behind the clouds, and I saw a mark on the ground. Not footprints. Handprints. 5 fingers pressed into the dirt, as if something had crawled on all 4s. The mark stretched away from the door and vanished toward the empty field. I did not sleep that night. In the morning, I went out with the courage of cowards. I first went to the empty field. The ground was untouched. No digging. I exhaled, convincing myself it had been a long nightmare. Then I walked eastward and saw the hole. It lay near the oldest apple tree on the farm, the ancient tree that had not borne fruit in 10 years. The hole was deep, shoulder wide, perfectly round, as if something had climbed out of it. On its edge were fragments of rotten wood, an old coffin plank, and a small bone. A finger bone. I looked inside. It was empty. I returned home, numb. I called the doctor and told him I was suffering from severe insomnia and seeing strange things. He prescribed sleeping pills and said isolation affects the mind. I thanked him and hung up. I knew what I had seen was real. That night, and every night after, I heard the footsteps. They circled the house, tested the doors, paused beneath the windows. I stopped going outside at night. I turned off the lights early and sat in the dark listening, holding the shotgun, waiting. Weeks passed. I grew accustomed to the sound, not less afraid, but adjusted to its presence like chronic pain. As long as it remained outside, I told myself, I was safe. But last night, everything changed. I was asleep when I felt something strange. I opened my eyes in pitch darkness. The room was colder than usual. Then I heard footsteps approaching the bed. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep, my hand moving slowly toward the shotgun beneath the pillow. I felt cold breath on my face and the smell of damp soil, the kind that rises from old graves. Rot and death and darkness. It whispered in my ear. One word only. I waited. I opened my eyes. No one was there. The room was empty, but on the floor beside my bed was a muddy mark, as if a foot had stood there for a long time, and a handprint, the same 5-fingered hand. I got up trembling, turned on every light in the house. I sit now in the kitchen writing these words, knowing time is running out. The sun is setting outside the window. In minutes, darkness will fall. In an hour, I will hear the footsteps again. But this time, I will not stay inside. This time, I will go out to meet it. I took the shotgun and stepped outside. I walked to the empty field, where I first heard the digging. I stood there in the dark, wind cutting through me, my heart pounding wildly. I'm here, I called out. What do you want from me? A long silence. Then I heard it from directly behind me. I waited for you. I waited a long time. The earth is cold and lonely. Come, share the darkness. I turned slowly. It stood only a few steps away. It had no clear features, just a black shape, a human shadow of light and darkness. but its eyes were clear. The whites were ash gray, the pupils a starless night. I raised the shotgun and fired at its chest. The bullet passed through it like smoke and struck a tree behind. It did not move. "This will not work on me," it said. "I am not from your world. I am from below, from where bullets do not reach and prayers do not reach. I am the one they forgot in the grave and thought forgetting would kill. Forgetting does not kill. It only starves, and I have been hungry for 100 years." I stepped back, then another step. It drifted toward me without moving its feet. "I came to you because you were the only one who heard me. The only one who came to my field that night. The only one who did not flee this land. So you are mine." I closed my eyes. I waited for the end. I felt its cold hands on my face. Then, I opened my eyes. I was standing alone in the field. It was gone. The moon had emerged, casting a cold silver light. Was it all a dream? Then I looked at my hands. They were covered in dirt. Damp dirt, the soil of old graves. My feet were bare, sunk ankle deep in mud. And there it was. A new hole beside the old one. Shoulder wide, as deep as a man's height. My shotgun lay at its edge. I looked inside. Empty. But on the earthen walls were fingerprints. My fingerprints. I ran home, looked at myself in the mirror. My face, my hair, my clothes, covered in grave dirt. The same dirt that had coated that thing. I sat on the sink's edge, trying to understand. Was I the one digging? Was I leaving the house at night without knowing? Was the thing that came from the grave nothing but a part of me? I don't know. I know nothing anymore. But I know one thing. Tonight, when darkness falls, I will hear the footsteps again. But this time, they will not come from outside the house. This time, I will hear them inside me. In my chest. In my head. In my bones. And when it whispers in my ear, perhaps I will whisper back. Perhaps I will go with it. My name is Arthur. I was a farmer. I am still here, writing these words, and I can hear the digging beginning beneath my bed now. All I hope is that one of you finds this paper before it is too late, before another night comes, because night will come. Night always comes, and with the night comes the one who has been waiting beneath the earth for far too long.